Flight controller is gonna go for landing. Retro. Go. Guidance go. GNC. Go. Econ. Go. Control. Go.
Ninth Planet Audio.
Capcom, we're go for landing.
Thank you for joining us tonight for the meeting of the Boone County Board of Education. I will now call the meeting to order. And I do see Ms. Hughes, our former student board rep from back in the old days, is first up to talk about an item. It's not on our agenda tonight, but that's okay. And I do notice that a couple of people have yielded their time to you, so...
Good evening. I'm Akilah. I promise you're going to hear this speech in this episode, but let's back up just a little bit.
But I feel like, too, I just kind of wanted to regroup now that we're all here.
Yeah.
So you feel like you still need to kind of write out what you want to say?
Well, I think I have an idea, so It's like I would love to workshop it, but then also, like...
My producers and I are back in Florence for 3 final meetings of the year. A super fun meeting with BLDG, and 2 high-stakes presentations to the school board and school-based decision-making council, in which we hope to really make some progress toward changing the BCHS mascot. I had hoped to show up with the support of Sean Alexander, a likely slam dunk in getting the school's attention. But even without his endorsement, I feel like we've had a ton of great conversations and really put together a roadmap that can help the school administrators see that change is needed.
The last time we were here, it was September. It's now December. It's much colder. We're back in the same area in Florence near the airport. And, not much has changed except for the temperature. Maybe they added a few more chain restaurants. But, we have done so many hours of work and research to this point. And right now we're heading to Covington to meet up with the folks at BLDG again, just to actually have this kickoff and talk about what a game plan could look like for a school. I also am next to a truck that has a We the People 1776 Rebel Ram with an NRA bumper sticker. So yeah, not in LA anymore.
I was a lady rebel. Like, what does that even mean?
The Boone County Rebels will stay the Boone County Rebels, but the image of...
It's right here in black and white in print. A-lion.
Bigger than a flag or mascot.
Anytime you're trying to mess with tradition, you have to be ready for serious backlash.
From Ninth Planet Audio, I'm Akilah Hughes, and this is Rebel Spirit, Episode 9. So disappointing. Being back in Florence, it's a reminder of just how far we've come and how much work we've done since our trip out for homecoming week. We've made allies with school board members and city council people and other folks in Florence working to make a change here.
Yeah, Carolyn is great. She's a great person for you guys to have connected with. I'm really glad you have.
Thank you. Yeah. We've talked with students at BCHS and around the region about what they'd like to see in a mascot and why they're important.
It makes me want to root for, my school more.
We've dived deep into the history of the area and have proven that the central story around the Rebels name, that it was based on Rebel Without a Cause, is a lie.
Also, it's just funny that all it took was coming to the library.
We've spoken with people who have made mascots people love and have gotten to work with BLDG, the design firm that transformed the Frontier League baseball team right here in Florence from the Freedom to the Yalls.
That's why it's the press bucket and not a press box.
Smart.
Bucket of chicken.
And we've spoken with people at other schools who have made the change away from the Rebels, including Bobby Thomas at Denver South, who gave us his whole game plan.
Loud voices that people respected were standing behind his decision.
We've done the readings, we understand the assignment, and now, in December 2023, we are back in Florence to share it all with the school. But our first stop was back in Covington, Kentucky, to meet with BLDG for some advice on how to best present our case in Florence this week.
Great to see you guys in person.
I know. I feel very lucky to be able to be here.
I think for us, one thing that helped us with the Yalls is that we had a suggestion of where to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we could do and what we would kind of recommend is always wrapping it up in that kind of larger story. You don't necessarily have to say it's X or they're called the biscuits or anything like that.
Totally.
But you've got all the logical stuff in your back pocket. It sounds very clear because we had that for the Yalls too. We've got a laundry list of blind responses of people saying y'all star, blah, blah, blah. We had all the logical stuff. Now we need the conceptual ideas.
Yeah.
But we went through the three of us and we were like, well, what's your high school mascot? And what we found was, my high school, the nickname is the Bombers. Scott is my witness. And the logo is
we're the
fighter.
We're the Agent Orange, yeah.
Because the logo is a fighter jet. So they're not even. Jason and I went to the same high school, so it's the same thing. It's a fighter jet. I was at a party and I mentioned not this, but I mentioned she was like, I'd love for you to come in and do some stuff for St. X, and I'm like, I will, but you have to agree to do this. And she's like, well, why would that be important? I'm like, well, if we're selling this idea of men for others, well, our logo is a bomber,
right?
That kills people.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that men for others? Let's go and kill them all together.
Exactly. Yeah.
And she laughed and she was like, well, yes, you make a great point. So that brought a deeper conversation.
So much of the work of ending offensive tropes is just making people aware of them. My mother said it in our very first episode. It takes an education and a willingness to be open-minded. Open-minded even that whatever comes next for Boone County will be better, not just less offensive or less historical. We can be more engaged, more creative, even more proud.
So much of the way we sell ourselves is like people kind of look at us like, hey, prove it, smart. If you guys are such smarty pants, like what is the answer? Yeah. So I think, and if we don't have the, hey, this is the name now going forward, it's more so just about this like theoretical driver of what makes just a name change in general a great idea, which again, you've got all the logical stuff in your back pocket to use. It can be so much more than just like a picture on your wall in a school. It can be something people want to wear on a t-shirt. Yeah. It can be something that they want to make scarves out of, or best case scenario, they make their own posters to carry around. Like
the principal was my fine arts teacher.
It can spark creativity amongst the student body that they can't even dream of like right now because they don't have anything to do that.
Nothing.
So
coming out of the meeting with BLDG, I was looking forward to the school-based decision-making meeting that night and the school board meeting the next day. Bolstering my optimism was an email we got from Stacy Black, the principal at BCHS, who wrote us just a few days before we arrived in Florence, responding to one of my producers who had written a parent representative to the BCHS Decision-Making Council. In that email, Principal Black dropped a surprise on us. Read by a friend of mine who is an excellent actress.
We already have an internal committee that is in the process of looking at this issue specifically. Internal conversations started last year during my interim year and have continued this year. The internal committee has been brainstorming what the process will look like, and so, with this being said, any additional feedback is always welcome. While I sincerely appreciate your commitment to this change and the work you've done, the formal mascot committee at BCHS will lead the work around this and create a timeline/action plan, which will include feedback from the 1,285 students in our building, in addition to parents, alumni, and teachers, and external BCHS school community members.
Up to now, the only communication we'd received from Stacy Black was no comment. And now she's telling us she had already formed a super secret committee to brainstorm a process to change the mascot last year. I was floored, and so I wrote to follow up. Principal Black's response was positive, if non-committal.
I don't want you to feel like your opinion as an alumnus is not important or welcome. It is. But there is a process for this type of change, and I will be following this process. We agree that this is needed, but the process and timeline set by the formalized committee will lead the work. It is too important, and I will do this the correct way and follow the established action plan set forth by the committee. I believe you and I are aligned in our beliefs pertaining to this topic. I agree wholeheartedly that a new mascot would be a positive change, increase positive school culture, and be a positive representation of BCHS in all that we hope to accomplish and continue to improve upon here. I'm especially excited about involving the students in it and how we can make this a fun and engaging process that will bring our school community even closer. I understand the impact this will have and am committed to continued positive change at BCHS. In that, I know we are in full agreement. BCHS has been my home for 27 years, my entire professional career. I care deeply about this school, the students, and the staff, and I am extremely excited for this process to begin and the positive change it will bring.
None of us were really sure how to process this exchange. There was a committee, or there wasn't. The work had begun, or it hadn't. Was this change coming soon, or was all this just a stalling tactic? Certainly, these are questions that could be answered at the school-based decision-making council meeting we were attending at the high school that night, right? I mean, if nothing else, it made me want to push for more transparency in this process and press for urgency in making this change. Anyway, these were questions swirling in my head as we pulled up to Boone County High School for the meeting.
Hi, Leslie. How you doing? This looks way better than it did when I was in high school.
Joining us at the meeting was Leslie Chambers, who is on the city council and has been super supportive of us throughout this process. The school-based decision-making council meeting is held in a small multi-purpose room off the front entrance of the school that, when I was at BCHS, was the auditorium. The council sits at a high-top table on one end of the room. An array of couches and chairs fill the rest of the room. There's a sign-up sheet to speak at the entrance when you walk in. And tonight, I'm the only name on it.
Great. Awesome. Hi. Can we just sit anywhere?
It's so quiet in there. It's the kind of quiet that makes you feel like you're interrupting something, even though this is ostensibly a public meeting. We take our place on the couches, and things open with a very muted roll call, whispered approval of the last meeting's minutes, and then, because I'm the only one here, it's my 2 minutes right away. There's no microphone or lectern. You just stand up and go.
All right. No, it's all good. I can project. I used to be in this auditorium. All right, let me know when the time has started, and I'll go. Great. Hi, I'm Akilah Hughes. I'm a BCHS alum from the class of 2005. I wrote an article in the Cincinnati Enquirer that got picked up about going to the high school reunion in 2015, and about the mascot. Obviously, everyone here knows about the controversy surrounding Mr. Rebel. And in 2017, you all did away with him and promised to get a new mascot. It's 6 years later, and Boone County is still the Rebels. I'm here to convince you that this needs to...
This is one of 2 meetings I'll have to make my case at, so I won't test your patience hearing the same speech twice. Suffice it to say, I said my piece. And then?
We're here and excited to work with you on this, and we will follow up via email and encourage you to start moving this process forward. Thank you. We did it. Perfect timing. Yeah, no worries.
The council was friendly and thanked me for being there, and that was it. We were in and out in under 10 minutes. Though I had hoped for more of a discussion with the SBDC, I wasn't too surprised and knew that we still had the school board meeting the next evening. So we decided to end our night with grilled cheese and pie at another Northern Kentucky staple, Frisch's Big Boy, before heading back to the hotel to prepare for the next challenge ahead. When we return, I go in front of the school board to say my piece.
Thank you for joining us tonight for the meeting of the Boone County Board of Education. I will now call the meeting to order.
All right. Really, y'all. This time, I'm not stopping the tape. I promise. As opposed to the SBDM council meeting last night, the school board meeting was packed. Joining us at the school board meeting was Leslie Chambers again, and then Jay Becker from BLDG, who was planning to speak in support of our efforts. When we were here in September, you'll remember that the near overflow crowd was here to speak against SB 150, the anti-trans youth bill recently passed by the Kentucky legislature. This time around, there was no single issue uniting the crowd, and instead of the usual order of business, where the public comment period follows a few short presentations, the meeting dragged on.
Let me tell you the work we're doing. We did this thing around the Macy's Day Parade and creating balloons.
And the idea of community-based accountability. And he defines 2 different kinds of accountability. I want to make the distinction so that you're aware.
And on.
He calls the first one protectionist accountability, and this is what
we have 3 vendors right now who are their level of encryption
hand on
goes end of life, so to speak, in 2020.
It was over 2 hours before finally the public comment period began.
That brings us to our audience of citizens. Our usual disclaimer. We welcomed the opportunity.
The crowd that had been there at the start of the meeting had dwindled significantly. Jay Becker from BLDG, who was planning to speak, had to leave about 90 minutes in. Finally, it was my chance to speak.
And I do see Ms. Hughes, our former student board rep from back in the old days, is first up to talk about an item. It's not on our agenda tonight, but that's okay. And I do notice that a couple of people have yielded their time to you, so.
Good evening. I'm Akilah Hughes. I'm a Boone County High School alum from the class of 2005. I also sat on this very board as the student representative to the Board of Education for my final school year in the district. You can see my baby face in a picture hanging right outside of this room. What's up, Yusuf? What's good? I'm here because I'm making a podcast for iHeartRadio about the mascot at Boone County High School and about how change is possible. Obviously, everyone here knows about the controversy surrounding Mr. Rebel. And in 2017, BCHS did away with him and promised to get a new mascot. Awesome. It's 6 years later, and Boone County is still the Rebels. Still named after the Confederacy, a short-lived, failed military exercise against the will of the United States of America. Kentucky wasn't even in the Confederacy. Boone County High School has been the Rebels 17 times longer than the Confederacy even existed. 17. But this isn't about shame or relitigating the past. This is about moving the school and the community forward. Last night, we attended the Site-Based Decision-Making Council meeting at Boone and explained why this change needs to happen as soon as possible. And you'll be happy to know that the principal, Ms. Black, claimed in an email that this is something that the school cares about and wants to change. I am here to convince you that this needs to change expeditiously. Next year is the 70th anniversary of the school. It's also the 70th anniversary of Brown versus the Board of Education. And what better time to make this change than with that celebration? And I've put in a lot of work to help facilitate this change. We were here in the fall and attended homecoming, and in the time since, we've conducted dozens of interviews comprising hours of research with students, parents, members of the Board of Education, members of the Site-Based Decision-Making Council, the City Council, the Alexander family, principals at other schools who had to make this specific change from a rebel to a new mascot. We've spoken to a local historian at the Boone County Public Library. We spoke with the Florence Y'alls and the team at BLDG, which is a local branding and marketing firm who did the literal case study on creating a more inclusive mascot from one that had zero excitement around it. Jay Becker was here earlier. He had to leave. Everyone we've spoken to has been excited about the change, and we are offering all of our resources to the school. When I came to homecoming in the fall, I was really floored to see how diverse the school community has become. Not just racially, but internationally and with self-expression and acceptance. It's clear that the school community has changed, but the one thing that hasn't changed in all of this time is the mascot. During my time at BCHS, Black students, regardless of their achievements academically or in extracurriculars, were made to feel othered. We were never represented by the mascot. We were made to cheer for. And since graduating, when I speak to people who aren't from here about what high school was like for me, there's a pause. Everyone understands intellectually that the mascot is wrong. The fact that we had to cheer for it is wrong, and it isn't just wrong today. It was wrong in 2005, and it was wrong in 1954 when the school was founded. It is a blight on my lived experiences and a shame for this community to overcome. The students deserve better, and so far, they've been offered racism or nothing. It's time to offer them something better. This is an opportunity. This region is blossoming. The population is booming, and the community is better now for the diversity that has come. It's only going to continue to diversify, so let's look toward the future. This doesn't have to be expensive or daunting. This doesn't have to be hard. It's an opportunity to propel Boone County into its next 70 years. And it isn't just an opportunity to change the mascot from bad to decent. It's an opportunity to engage the creativity of students, their parents, alumni, and the greater community to build a new and positive legacy for the school. I know change is hard, and I know that there will be pushback. That's where leadership comes in. When we came here in September, we tried to meet with you, and instead we were put in touch with Barbara Brady, who led us to a parent liaison to the board. In a text, that liaison said to me, quote, "Aw, we both know the school board has already put this to rest." To reiterate, she does not believe that this is something that you actually care about, and she felt comfortable putting that in writing to me. Let's prove her wrong. I do believe that you care about this. I believe you care about the students who go to Boone County High, past and present. I believe you understand how good this change could be for everyone, and I believe that you can be doing more to help Boone County High School create a new identity that the entire school community can be proud of. When we spoke with alumni who were here in the Sean Alexander era, there was an energy there, a pride there. People were engaging with the school in a way they never had before and had something worth cheering for. We can have that again. I would love to see a standing room only football stadium for homecoming, with a crowd of families excited to cheer on a team with an identity everyone can be proud of. Students taking pics with the mascot, posting them on Instagram. A mural in the school that doesn't say Rebel Pride, but instead is created by the student community and represents all the kids who go there. And alumni who actually return to the school and experience a new sense of pride about how far we've come. I promise you that this change will have a ripple effect throughout the wider community. It's amazing what happens when people feel included and respected. This is the opportunity that lies in front of you, and I'm here and excited to work with you on this. We will follow up via email to share our resources, and we encourage you to start moving this process forward. Thank you.
The public comment period, now well past the 2.5 hours since the start of the meeting, was sparse. There were 2 other speakers there to talk about unrelated items, and then Amber Hoffman, who we spoke to earlier in this series, spoke as a Boone County district parent in support of changing the mascot.
And this is an opportunity for you guys to make sure that all of the students in Boone County schools know that this is not appropriate. Take a stand and make sure that they understand that we are y'all. This is what you guys say all the time. You know, the Boone County School is for all of us. All means, or y'all means all. And I would love for you guys to take a stand on this and, you know, put the mascot to bed. Let the kids know in this community that you have their backs, because that's what I expect of you guys, and I hope you guys expect from yourselves. Thank you.
We'll be right back with the board's response after a short ad break. After Amber spoke, President Karen Bird made it clear that the school board had no influence in making the change, and also that she had somehow lost my email.
That is all that we had signed up to speak tonight. Normally we use this time as a time just to listen, but since Akilah and we have a history here, I will let you know you're in the right place working with the site-based council at Boone County High School. This Board of Education has nothing to do with that decision and how they make it and the process that they use. So my kids went to Boone County High School. Ms. Young's kids would be at Boone County High School if, so it's, I understand both sides, but that really is not our decision to make. That's the school's decision to make. And I think with Mrs. Black at the helm, sometimes change doesn't come as fast as we would want it to. But, you know, if you need resources or if you need information, you know, let us know. I tried to respond to your email and I couldn't find it, to let you know that, you know, we look forward to having you back and having you here. But continue to work with the council because that's where that change has to happen. Us to do otherwise would be in violation of the law. So, okay, we will move on now with our consent agenda items, items A through HH.
And that was it. They moved on to more of their agenda. Seeing as how it was nearly 10 o'clock, we left. Waiting in the lobby was a group of supporters all saying the same thing. They've never seen a meeting take that long to get to public comment.
Of course, thank you. I really appreciate it.
I don't normally make us wait. I love that. This was crazy.
I think so. I mean, I sent people saying we were coming, so I'm like, it's weird that everyone has a 5-hour presentation.
And they moved stuff from the bottom to the top. I was like, oh my god.
I was back there and I was like, I think it should be illegal for any woman to have to wear a bra after 9 p.m. and they are pushing it right now.
And I said we should take them off and protest.
We should start playing with phone.
You can probably tell from our voices, but the school board meeting left us all feeling pretty defeated and frustrated and exhausted and hungry and dreading the early morning flights we all had to take to get back home for the holidays.
I'm so disappointed. in Boone County. I really am. Because, you know, as we saw at the first board meeting we went to, they're willing to engage on certain things they feel confident talking about. And to hear Karen Bird, the head of the Board of Education, basically say, I can understand both sides of this issue. First of all, I don't even know what the other side of the issue is. That the Confederacy was a part of Kentucky, that we should have this mascot. Like, objectively, I plan to follow up and be like, please explain it like I'm 10. What's the other side of the issue? What is it? That you're a coward? That's really how I feel. I feel like there's so much cowardice at the heart of this community and the people who are elected to represent the community. And so, I'm really proud of what I said, and I still stand by everything that I said there. But I am so saddened that, this is just something that they clearly don't want to lead on. And yeah, I also just felt like, of course, Barbara Brady had left by that point. By the time I got to speak, the meeting was so long. And everybody who's been going to the meeting said, that's got to be intentional. Like, why is it almost 10 p.m. when I'm speaking? It's crazy. But I'm glad that we went. I'm glad that we said it. And I don't think that this is the end of the conversation.
Yeah. And it's nice that Amber and them were there. And
totally. I was really glad that she was willing to speak and, in support of this in particular. I know there's plenty of other issues going on in the school district, and, they have, 10-minute presentation on accountability. And they don't want to be accountable for this. It's very funny.
It was so late when we got back, and I had a 6 a.m. flight back to Los Angeles in the morning. I wish I could say that I felt anything other than exhausted and disappointed, but I didn't. A mid-December meeting meant that the holidays and winter break for the schools pushed any chance that we might hear back from the board or Principal Black well into the new year. And if you think we heard back right away, you'd be wrong. Despite our offers of sharing our research and our contacts, the offer of help from BLDG or the groundswell of locals helping to move things forward, we didn't hear anything from the board or Principal Black. We wrote them back in the new year, asking the principal for information on the process she'd promised in the email before the meeting. No response. We wrote the board for clarification on the legal question Karen had mentioned in her response in December. No response. Though we did hear back from the State Board of Education's legal person, who said that there was no law on the books of this nature, and that while the board may defer to a school-based decision-making body, there's nothing making it against the law for a board to step in. In fact, that's exactly what happened in 2020 in Louisville, Kentucky, when the Jefferson County Public Schools Board asked all of its school-based councils to reevaluate their mascots based on a new 8-question racial equity analysis protocol. And guess what one of those Jefferson County public schools was called? You guessed it, the Atherton Rebels, and now the Ravens, thanks to the intervention of the school board, an intervention that was absolutely not illegal. Side note, this is Jack Harlow's high school. The silence from the school and from the board stretched through January and into February. And then something wholly unexpected happened. Mr. Rebel came back.
All right, here we are at Walgreens. It is Groundhog Day, February 2nd, 2024. We're gonna go in here and look for some offensive spirit wear.
Our producer Dan got a text from Leslie Chambers. It was a picture of a t-shirt for sale at the Walgreens in town. It read Boone County Rebels in generic collegiate-style lettering, and topping the logo was the head of the apparently not retired Confederate General, Mr. Rebel.
All right, so I'll just go ahead and get these socks, and then we'll go ahead and check the other Walgreens tomorrow.
In fact, it was part of a whole line of Mr. Rebel clothes for sale at the local Walgreens, including t-shirts, hoodies, sweatpants, and socks. Listener, I now own a pair of Mr. Rebel socks because I had to see it to believe it. But here he is, laughing at me. And then, a few weeks later, we got a photograph of a Boone County wrestler on the winner's podium. And who's on the warm-up shorts? Yep, it's Mr. Rebel again. Mr. Rebel was retired in 2017. There were whole news reports about it and everything.
Well, Cammie, the Boone County Rebels will stay the Boone County Rebels, but the image of Mr. Rebel has been gone from the gym floor
Change
since
also
last
means
year.
the longtime Mr. Rebel will be retired. About 30 students have already submitted ideas.
And yet, here in February 2024, 7 years later, his mustached visage is once again staring out at me. 6 months into our work to get the team name changed for good, and now we're back fighting 2017's battles all over again. Now, the merch sold at Walgreens based on the tag is created by a company that supplies school merch to booster clubs. Arguably not the school itself, though it clearly reads that proceeds go to Boone County High School. But how did the third place finisher at the state wrestling championships, a black kid, I should add, end up wearing Mr. Rebel on his leg? We reached out to Lance Melching, who holds the double title of both Boone County High School's athletic director and journalism teacher, to find out. Our previous emails to him had always gone unresponded, but this time he wrote back right away. Again, I've asked a friend to read his email.
Our policy has been that we are phasing out any apparel / signage / etc. with a depiction of a rebel character. That process is nearly complete, though some kids and people still have some items. We have not ordered anything new with the depiction of the character since that process started. These shorts were found during a closet cleanout and evidently offered to some kids as an alternative to having them thrown out. Going forward, we will be disposing of these kinds of items. Over the years, the school has entered into various agreements with third parties who produce apparel for businesses. I've only found out about these agreements when I have occasionally received a check from the proceeds and then inquired as to where it came from and why. The revenue from this particular vendor was not directed towards the athletic department, so I was unfamiliar with them until they reached out last week and were directed to me. At that time, we sent them a new logo. To my knowledge, all of our vendors of this type have our new marks that do not include any depiction of a character.
What are the odds that just the week before we raised the issue, the company that made the Mr. Rebel merch reached out all on their own, and they changed the logos? I hope someone in the email chain bought a lottery ticket. So here we are. We've been at this for months, and the only movement has been backwards. Mr. Rebel is back, though maybe only temporarily. The Rebel's name remains, and we've heard nothing from Principal Black about the process to define a process that she promised us was well underway in that email back in December. Believe me, we've asked. 9 episodes in, and we have basically nothing to show for it. Change is hard and slow, I know, but it's still frustrating and disappointing. So disappointing. I knew changing things in Florence would be hard, but what I didn't expect was that it would feel like we're fighting against not just local headwinds, but national ones too. As the country wound its way toward another presidential election cycle with Donald Trump at the top of the Republican ticket, the winds of change, especially the ones that blew in 2020 following the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, winds that blew away rebel team names across the country, brought equity initiatives to the fore, and began, albeit slowly, to dismantle some of the systemic racism that defines the country, those winds were blowing the other way.
All right, with a 5-1 vote, it was the Shenandoah County School Board voting to restore the names of Mountain View High and Honey Run Elementary to Stonewall Jackson High and Ashby Lee Elementary. Those who voted in favor say the 2020 board took shortcuts and made decisions without public opinion, arguing they ignored the people they represent. A concerned resident argued restoring these names is like going back to 1959, a year they say rooted in mass resistance and Jim Crow.
As we were getting nowhere in Boone County, things were happening a few hundred miles away in Shenandoah County, Virginia, where after removing the names of Confederate icons on their schools in 2020, the school board had voted just 4 years later to change them back.
I wanted to look back and find out when exactly did all of this start, because this appears to be the first school to be able to go back and change its names after what happened during the George Floyd time period back during the pandemic.
This is Nathaniel Klein, an award-winning journalist who has written about the Shenandoah County School Board's decision to reverse the renaming of their schools.
This could possibly be a blueprint if other school boards decide to do this down the road and change names back to it. If you in the story, it'll kind of talk about this resolution that was passed by the Board of Supervisors, which is completely different from the school board. in combating racism. And so they said, well, we need to take it a step further. And so they took that step back in 2021. And, in working on this story, after the 2021 decision, it was a slow buildup of that school board changing.
The board, now composed entirely of white members, includes one member who praised Stonewall Jackson as a gallant commander.
It wasn't just the changing of the names. There were other policy decisions being made by school boards across the country, including, for the rights of transgender students.
Masking.
Exactly. And so eventually, once that school board kind of basically overhauled itself, you saw that backlash. So
backlash to backlash, reaction to reaction.
Was very quick to get everything back up. When I went out there for a visit, you couldn't tell anything happened at all in the last few years. It was so quick.
Wow. The struggle for progress is far from over. Every school with a rebel mascot or a Confederate general's name defies progress, decency, and the acknowledgement that Black Americans risk their lives to secure education for their children. We've learned that Confederacy-based violence remains alive and well after Charlottesville. We explored how the descendants of enslaved people and slave owners attended Boone County High School together. We discussed how even well-meaning white people struggle to enact change due to community pressure. That mascots carry significant weight, capable of inspiring pride, but also perpetuating oppression and signaling how a community views Black students. Now, at the end of all this, you're likely beginning to understand why we titled this episode So Disappointing. At this point, given our lack of progress with the school board and BCHS, combined with the actual reversal of progress in places around the country, our journey is truly feeling so disappointing. Every episode of this podcast, I've tried to end with hope, to leave you with a sense that change is really possible. But honestly, after everything that's happened since we were here in Florence in December, the lack of action from anyone there, and the sense that things aren't progressing, but instead are regressing, not just in Florence, but everywhere, I'm not sure I believe it. Rebel Spirit is a production of Ninth Planet Audio in association with iHeart Podcasts. Reporting and writing by me, Akilah Hughes. I'm also an executive producer and the host. Produced by Dan Sinker. Edited by Josie Azam. Our assistant editor is Jennifer Dean. Music composed by Charlie Sun. Sound design and mixing by Josie Azam. Our theme song is All the Things I Couldn't Say, performed by Busty and the Bass, courtesy of Arts and Crafts Productions, Inc. Our production coordinator is Kyle Hinton. Our clearance coordinator is Anna Sonnenschein. Production accounting by Dilpreet Singh. Additional research support from Janice Dillard. Emails read by Nicole Thurman and Frank Garcia-Heil. Executive producers for Ninth Planet Audio are Elizabeth Bakewit and Jimmy Miller. Special thanks to Jay Becker and the whole team at BLDG, the Florence Yalls, Amber Hoffman, Hillary Delaney, and Leslie Chambers. If you have a racist mascot at your high school, or are an alumni of a high school with a racist mascot and want to share your own experience, please email us at rebelspiritpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.